And in New York, where I live, you're tight. I mean, you're outside and you're like right up on people, right? It's not, sorry. So we're right on top of people. And when I'm out in public, I'm just like spying on people. Like I'm clearly gonna go to jail soon. And when I do, please know that I'm not a perv. It's just I pay attention to what the young kids are doing to try to figure out what's coming out next. Because that's what I care about. So something happened. This guy, he's in front of me. He must have been, I don't know, 147 years old. This dude was old. This guy was super old, double like earplug. He was old, right? And he goes, honey, what movie do you want to see? And because he had 2 earpieces, he was loud as shit, so I could hear him. Honey, what movie do you want to see? She's like, I don't know, Hal. Hal takes his phone out of his pocket, and that like catches my attention, so now I'm kind of like looking. And he launches TweetDeck, which is a Twitter application, which then makes me look at my wife and say, holy shit. Because Hal's not 16. Hal's $140. And then Lizzie looks at me and says, is this gonna be one of those things you talk about on stage? And I'm like, yep. And so he does some stuff and I can't really see it because I didn't want to get that in there. And then he just waits. And then he walks a couple more steps and he's almost up and he takes out his phone and he looks at it and goes, honey, and the worst part is the movie that it just hurts the story a little bit. He goes, we'll go see The Social Network. Everybody said it was good, right? Here's what's so fascinating about that moment. Hal, 10 years ago, would have sat his ass on his couch on Thursday night and watched Siskel and Ebert, and they would have told him what movie to go see. They would give 2 thumbs up to something, and Hal would have made his $14 decision based on Siskel and Ebert. 7 years ago, he might have opened the New York Times and seen a review, and they would have made his decision. If he was real pimp 4 years ago, he would have went to RottenTomatoes.com, looked it up, they would have given some tomatoes, and they would have made the decision for him. In 2011, 12, and now forever, Hal's social network, his social graph, his peeps told him what to go see. This fundamentally changes commerce in this country, in this world, forever, and we are just in the early stages of this. The way we make decisions right now act much more like the 1920s and 30s than they do in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. We are literally going back to small town rules, literally. When people literally kept their doors open and their laundry outside. We are sharing so much information. How many people in this room, it's gonna work for this crowd, not you youngsters in the back as much. How many people here have connected with somebody on Facebook that they hadn't talked to for 5 years prior to that? Raise your hand. All right, good amount. How about 10? How about 15? I need you old peeps. Thank you. We are reconnecting with people that we would have otherwise lost touch with. When I went to college, lost touch with all my friends because the only thing we had back then was our parents' phone numbers. No cells, no instant messenger, no way to connect. Forget about Facebook and Twitter. That was it. You went, you came back, people moved, game over. You lost them. That's just the way it was. That was the way it is. Now, you're not losing anybody. Everybody's connected forever. You know where they are at all times. Companies always tell me, but Gary, isn't Facebook gonna be like MySpace and then we're doing all this hard work here and then we're gonna move? I'm like, first of all, no, but fine. And number 2, even if that happened, everybody's gonna follow you to the new platform. The day I signed up for Google+, I had 70,000 followers. They follow you to the new platforms. We all know what they're going to be, and we're all gonna go there. And now, what I'm most fascinated by is not the social graph, because Facebook is as close as it's gonna get, I think, to mapping your social graph, right? What I'm most focused on right now is the interest graph, the things that we actually care about. That's why the like button's in play, my friends, because after it's about who you are and who you know, it becomes about what your interests are. That's why sites like, how many people here have a Tumblr account? Raise your hand, just for context, okay? How many people here have heard or have used Pinterest? Raise your hand. More Pinterest than Tumblr, that's fascinating. Awesome, thank you. Data, got it, okay. That stuff is what's coming next. That to me is what's fascinating. What do you actually like? Do you like pizza? Do you like soda? Do you like vodka? Do you like the Knicks? Do you like birds? I don't fucking care. Do you like watching commercial? Well, Aaron. The interest graph is the next place that I'm very fascinating in monetizing. And so when I hear companies saying, well, why should we be on Facebook? Why should we be on Twitter? Why do we do this one-on-one marketing? You know, there's some small businesses in the crowd and they're saying to themselves, But 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day of engaging in these platforms, like how do we afford that? How do we have time for that? When do I do my real job? When did engaging with the people that actually buy your products not become a real job? I've been asking people that for a while now and trying to really get to the grasp of that. See, what happens is when you're a small business, you're doing a lot of dumb shit. I used to. That's what you do. When you're a small business, you have a certain amount of dollars that you can actually afford to do things, so you end up doing dumb things. There's so many, I've met so many small businesses, in the last couple of years, and, the pizza guy's like, well, Gary, how do I, when do I do that? I'm like, well, why don't we map your day? I request, I implore all the small businesses in the crowd today that when you go back, you map, you audit what you do day to day. Because I promise you, there's definitely an hour or two in your day that you do something that a $10 an hour employee can do. And you could start focusing on the future platform of the world. The place where it is going to be the only place that you can actually communicate to your end customer. As our eyeballs go away from the traditional places and our word of mouth gets sparked in these platforms are going to be extremely important. And honestly, I don't want to hear from the small business or the people that are a little older that say, well, I didn't grow up with this. You didn't grow up driving and you figured that out. And more importantly, some poor dude bought 1,000 horses the day before Henry Ford created the car. He fucking lost. Innovation doesn't give a crap about us. Business is going to continue to move, it's going to do its thing, and it is our job to jump on board and adjust to it. The way people communicate and consume content has changed forever. You can hold on to it, knock yourselves out, but it's changed forever. And what's coming next is ridiculous. The phone. Let's talk about the phone for a second. You know what this is? This is the robot that I was promised in 1985. In 85, they used to run all these shows like, one day you'll have a robot. I'm like, good, that fucker can clean my room, right? You like that? This is the robot. How many people, I'm gonna ask you something right now. Back to hands, I need them, please. How many people in every 24-hour cycle, including when you're sleeping, are never, ever outside of arm's length of their phone? Raise your hands high. Prez, please look back at this. Stand up, Prez. You, look back. One more time, raise your hands. I would say that 70% of you are never, including when you're sleeping, not hands length away from your phone. You know what this is? It's fucking crack. Kids, be careful. So let's talk about what happens next. How many people here know what NFC technology is? Raise your hand. Nerds. NFC, near field communication. Every single person in this room's phone is going to have NFC technology in the next 36 to 48 months, maybe 5 years. Every single person in this room, every one of you, not just the kids, will pay for the majority of your products with this, not a credit card. You will roll into the place you shop, it'll be $28.50, and you'll be like, good, and you're out. Every one of you. This is going to be the pay method. It's not because I'm so smart. Go to South Korea and Japan. It's on like Donkey Kong there already. So this is going to be your payment, period. So let's talk about that. What happens when we start building apps on top of this that leverage the fact that this is commerce, that this is your currency? I want to build an app called My Better Life, that all you do is tell the app shit that you want to do better, like, buy my wife presents more often, just not on her birthday, boom. I want to learn more about tea, boom. I want to lose 20 pounds, boom. So you make an app that it's all about making your life better. So you know what's going to happen? Like today when I'm running through Chicago Airport trying to get here, and I'm hungry, and I'm like being fast, I'm trying to lose some weight, and I go to McDonald's and I'm like, yeah, I'll take 2 Egg McMuffins, and they're like, that's $7.47. I'm like, good, bam, and they'll say, stop eating shit, asshole.